All right, everybody, welcome to the Two Big Guys in Grover podcast. It is our conversation series. It's Scott Grover, Cody Mcgee, Cris Welch.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Come on, I'm excited. Let's go.
Hold on. PBR announcer, rodeo announcer, gym owner, used to be my best friend in the world. He now, for some reason, has a couple horses in his backyard, which I believe I heard would maybe never happen in his life. Two big dogs that fill up their entire house. It is the man, the myth, the legend, the guy that we never thought we would get to the studio.
You forgot something.
Because he has his own podcast.
Ah, there we go. All
which, listen, is nationally ranked. I do believe.
I have no idea.
That's what
I don't know how that stuff
That's what
works.
I keep hearing. Maybe the best, maybe the second best Western sports podcast out there.
Behind this
one,
Okay.
of course,
As
because
long
we
as
have
it's
a sign
behind
that
this one.
says we're on the air.
You got me? Yeah.
It is Matt West.
First of all, why are you looking at him with this look?
Because he
of
dropped
horror?
his microphone didn't turn on fast enough.
Okay.
And
All right.
I tried to
All right.
mute him on purpose.
Guys, we're trying to win awards here.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to be messed
Hang
up.
on a second. Hey, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You're winning an
Yeah, I
award. The
just
only
wanna-
award you're going to win right now, only because she's sitting over there, is like Boyfriend of the Year award.
My award that I won was a brand new horse and a dog that a pair of dogs that we took to the vet this weekend to get their nails trimmed, and they actually put them on the scales. The small one weighed in at a petite 105 pounds.
So you have a 12-year-old son and daughter.
Yeah,
living at your house.
the male dog. I'm not even kidding you. The male dog weighed 130 pounds. The male is the one that every evening wants to come in while I'm in my oversized recliner, because I'm not a small guy. When I'm in my recliner at the end of the day, after a weekend where I've been on the road working, I come home, I go to the gym for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. I sit down in my recliner to watch Monday Night Raw, and what does he do? He jumps right on my lap like he's a chihuahua.
Just a little lap dog.
So where's your dog at then?
So, man,
Is that
we're
a bad
just gonna-
subject?
No, we're just going to pull the curtain back on reality
They
right
ate
away.
him. They ate him, didn't they?
No, what had happened was
Because actually, I'm going to tell you what, that question came from my kids, because, they're all on social
Right,
media, and they're
right.
like, Lainey says last night, Dad, where's Matt's dog at? And I'm like, I don't know, Lainey.
So-
I'm going to ask him that question.
So here's the thing. That is my dog, the Chihuahua. Vegas,
right?
Vegas,
Vegas. Elvis.
Vegas is cool enough. He could have his own Instagram.
Elvis
But
Vegas,
anyways,
same thing.
so Vegas is my dog. There's a big long backstory. I've had that dog for a long time. My parents have this tendency to get attached to dogs. It started when I was in college, and I would come home with a dog, and then they decided, well, we'll hang on to it for a weekend. This is my version of the story. Theirs
Okay.
might be way
Okay.
different.
Yeah, I'm calling BS.
Yeah,
on
I'm going to
story.
tell you, this is way too elegant as to what really happens.
So Vegas actually, the long story short is Vegas actually lives at my parents' house, which many people think I live at my parents' house.
Not anymore, not since last summer.
Yeah, no, I moved out about a year ago. No, I wish. Golly, the good old days when I didn't have bills, right? Yeah. Meatloaf. I need a grape soda. Yeah, no, Vegas lives at my parents' house. The two Dobermans are so badass. I hate to admit that in public, because I always give her grief about it. You're right. I said I would never own horses.
You said you'd never have a girlfriend.
Yeah, well, I didn't say that. Everybody else said I would never have.
was
a
that
girlfriend.
us or him?
Yeah. Everybody else said I would never have one. Yeah, you know what? It's amazing how life changes.
It does.
It's crazy. But it's all for the good, man. All for the good. I got a horse. I've got two amazing Dobermans, and I've got a girlfriend.
Awesome. That's truly. That's the difference.
Hang
So
on,
if you
I
go
have a
back 5 years,
beautiful-
look at you. You're like rolling your eyes.
I
like,
have a beautiful,
I think
amazing
it's
girlfriend.
I was waiting
I
for
think
his
it's awesome.
adjectives, but I was going to let you off the hook. I was going to say everything else in the world looks better
Yeah.
when you have the beautiful, amazing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that we put it on social media enough. Something else I said I'd never do, that everybody sees, how much I appreciate
you want a
her.
ring?
She's sitting right over there, and she. Anyways, so yeah, I'm a big Hulk Hogan fan.
So
love
am
the
I.
dogs, love bull riding. What else you guys want to talk about?
Monday Night Raw.
Oh, look at the time.
Yeah.
No.
Now you're buying dog food. I mean, that's.
I spend more money on dog food than I do on plane tickets and horse feed. Again, I don't know if you guys know this. Horses are not cheap animals.
Oh,
Everybody thinks,
we know.
let's just
We
yeah,
know
we
all
I
about
know,
this.
You know,
We know
everybody
all
thinks,
about this.
just kick them out in the pasture. They're beautiful to look at. They're easy to maintain.
Nope.
Bull
No,
butter.
No.
They're expensive.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what kids are like.
Well, you got to think 105 pound and 130
Kids are
pound
cheaper and
dogs.
easier.
Oh, I didn't know where you were going with that. I'm just gonna stop right there, wherever you're going. Let's just pump the brakes a minute.
Rewrite.
No, there's no. Let's go back to Hulk Hogan fan. You're a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Yeah,
As
but-
many know,
Hey,
some
he's
may
not
not.
a wrestling fan,
Yeah.
dude. He is a wrestling.
Dude,
Actually, he's a wrestling
fanatic.
connoisseur, to be totally honest. I mean, he's a historian because he understands.
I love the new stuff, but like every time we're together, we talk about the old stuff because I grew up in the '80s when it was cool,
That's true.
and people
Everything
get
was
in
cooler in the 80s.
right, but it's sad because kids get off on like the stupid TV shows now, the stuff that it's not real. I grew up on the real stuff, like Hulk Hogan and Dusty Rhodes and Ric
The
Flair.
real
What are you
stuff.
laughing at? Like I don't know what's
I
funny
did. I
about
mean, I
that.
did it too. I watched them when I was a kid.
You did?
I still do.
Yeah.
For those that don't know, and some do, my grandpa was a professional wrestler.
Right.
I mean, and when I say professional wrestler, that's what he did for a living.
The Flying Viking.
Yeah, he went. That was the later. That was his. That was his personality or persona towards the end of
Yeah.
his career. He originally started as Thor Hagen, and was working out.
Can you imagine the name Thor Hagen
you know what?
nowadays? Like
I know.
Thor Hofer, the bull rider, I always think Thor. If he had long hair and muscles,
Yeah,
like, I
Grandpa
would
never
be-
had long hair, but Grandpa was a big man.
Yeah.
I'm a big guy, but my
right,
grandpa, I don't. I always try and. It probably gets exaggerated how tall and stuff he was. I don't know his exact height, to be totally honest. I just know that
He was
a
huge in pictures.
huge man.
He
Like,
was
I mean,
huge
he
in
was a
pictures.
huge man.
Yeah.
And athletic, and had the ability to what people very much like the rodeo world or the circus world, or there is a sense of entertainment and entertainer that has to be in every one of those guys. Not only do you have to be physically fit and take the pounding, because even though they're fake, I'll say fake hitting,
They're
or-
pulling punches, no
yeah,
question about
absolutely. But do that 43, 50 times in the next 4 or 5 minutes, and then bounce off the ropes, and then fly from the air and land and have somebody suplex you. Their ability and their toughness is completely different than what most people think.
it. Just taking bumps, because those wrestling rings, like the mats, are not. It's not a trampoline, and if you think whatever, if you think they're not athletes, if you think they're not tough, go YouTube how a wrestling mat is made, and actually real legit 2x4s and everything
It's
underneath
still
there.
hard.
It hurts.
It may give a little.
Okay, and that's for a few minutes a night. What I'm enamored by is I bitch about my schedule. Their schedule is, go home for 2 or 3 days. You're working out every day because it's a body sport.
You gotta work out.
You've got to be physically fit. You've got to look good. When you get on a plane on Friday morning, you fly to a venue, you find a place to work out, then you got to eat, then you got to check into the hotel, then you've got to get to the venue, then you've got to go through the matches. At the end of every night, then you've got to drive 3, 4, 5 hours to the next city, try to sleep a little bit, get up, hit the gym, eat, get to the venue, do it again, and then drive again. Like
'Cause if you're not
4 or 5
taking-
times a week.
Because if you're not eating and you're not working out, that's the only way they can maintain those your body and your recovery time.
I can remember hearing conversations with my uncle and my mom and those talk about it. And I was a young kid when my grandfather passed away, but I can remember my grandpa at that time, they didn't fly very often.
Yeah.
My grandpa
Yep.
could fly. He had his own plane. They would do those things. But it was more of they had a van, and they would put 6, 8 wrestlers in a van.
Yep.
And they would go from one match to the next match to the next town. And he traveled all over the United States.
There's a lot of similarities between like even the modern day like pro wrestlers or superstars, whatever you want to call them, with our bull riders in the PBR, because you'll see a lot of those guys. If they're not flying, or if they're, especially during the summer, if they're going to drive from one place to the next, rodeo guys in particular, throw 3, 4 guys in a truck, in a van, in a car, go from point A to point B, try to hit the next one. Wrestlers are doing the exact same thing. It's not an easy lifestyle.
And then you add eating on top. That's what's getting at. They would talk about what they ate, because at that time, convenience stores worked 24 hours a day. They would have to have a cooler, and they would throw whatever they could from the concession stand at the event in a cooler and try and feed all of those guys going down the road.
Yep.
And you think it sounds silly, but every so often you get to a 24-hour diner on the interstate in the 60s. They'd pull off and get fuel, and they would sit down and eat, and they would talk about how much food they would order. and it would just be massive amounts.
Take it with them.
No, they would just eat,
it.
eat,
Yeah.
and then they
Well,
so they
through
could
the
go to the
night.
next one.
Like I remember at the beginning of my career when I booked my first rodeo that was outside of the Oklahoma, Kansas area. You know, I remember getting the phone call and, hey, we want you to go to Iowa and do this rodeo. And I thought, boys, I'm never going to have another poor day again. You know,
I've
you
made
remember
it.
that first long kind of drive,
yeah.
you know, and you drive. And now looking back, it's like, holy crap, I lost $300 to go do that rodeo or whatever. But at the end of the night, you know, when they walk around and whatever's left at the concession stand, they're like, you know, hey, you guys want a hamburger? You damn right I want a hamburger. Give me 2 or 3 of those.
Rodeo
That's
burgers.
And I look back now and it's like, man, we were doing everything we could just to get by and to try to get our name out there.
Well, and I had looked through some receipts of your grandpa's a few weeks ago, and there was a bunch of hotel receipts in there from that time. And to stay at a hotel, I mean, if you stayed at a $15 a night hotel,
Yeah.
that was a big hotel.
Oh, yeah.
That was an expensive hotel. Our rooms this week in Kansas City are $150.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so it's all relative because, you know, the salaries, of course, weren't as good then. You know, maybe we're making more money now, but yeah, we still all go through that thing and the rock star life we live all the time. You know,
Right.
isn't
You think of
necessarily that.
Think of that. Think of the cost. Even though the salaries have raised, cost of living raised, it's it's relative to time and stuff like that. The resources that are available now for an athlete, be it a pro athlete in wrestling, pro athlete in rodeo, pro athlete in football, the resources are unbelievable right now. Can you imagine some of those guys?
Here's why I have
having
such an
that?
appreciation and a respect for bull riders, for rodeo athletes, because there's no guaranteed contracts.
None.
For pro wrestling and any
It's
other
the love
sport,
of the sport.
you're doing all that stuff, but you're also making a salary. Our guys are not making a salary. They actually have to win in order to pay for those $150 a night hotels, in order to pay for those meals and to get up and down the road. I don't like the fact that he's writing notes. It scares me a little bit. But
A lot going
It's
on.
like
today.
class.
but again, that's why I appreciate Western sports, because you know you have to be successful in a degree to even continue to try to chase a dream. So
It amazes me because we're starting to see the change. You're talking about what was available for those guys back then and what's available now. They are able to. Jess is a prime example. You know, Jess eats a certain amount of food. He is very, very scripted in his diet.
Mm-hmm.
He's scripted in his exercise.
he's also a 2-time world champion and the youngest man ever to get to $4 million. I think it's because he
Look at those
understands.
stats just pour out.
No, I mean, but I truly believe the guys that are successful, with obviously JB Mooney being the anomaly of the group, guys that have honed in. You know, look at Jose Vitor Lemi. We don't talk about what he eats because of the language barrier. We don't know what his diet is day to day. But I can tell you this: that son of a bitch is in shape. He's in really
Work
good shape.
Work
Like
shape.
he is in good shape.
You honestly, you want to know the one thing I've noticed, and walking in and out of the locker room, we all shake hands. It's a part
Right.
of our culture.
Yep.
When you reach down and shake Jess's hand, and I'm not
Yep.
nothing against Jess, I'm just saying,
Yep.
when you shake Jess's hand and you shake Jose's hands,
Yep.
Jose's hands are truly like little vice grips.
Yeah.
Like when you shake his hand, you're like, wow. I mean, and it's just this. There's that. You know, that I just saw a deal the other day that said, "Don't worry." They're talking about LSU's quarterback saying that at the combine his hands are too small, and Mahomes said, "So are mine." That was the whole thing.
His are small.
They are.
Mahomes are small.
Mahomes are tiny,
Absolutely.
compared to. But my point
I got
is,
tiny
they're
hands.
strong. They say that when Mahomes shakes your hand, you can tell. That's
I got
not
Hannah
the
Montana
That's
hands.
not the
Look
only
at that.
thing.
but you know what? And I love that because guys will say, "Oh, he's not built like an NFL quarterback," or he's too tall to be a bull rider. Look at a guy like Cody Teal, who's over 6 feet tall and still, I mean, he's a top 10 contender. Like I love anything. I'm a shy kid by nature. I'm not supposed to talk for a living. I'm damn sure not supposed to have a podcast that's whatever you said. Maybe the best podcast ever. I think that's what you said.
I believe that's true.
But anyways, I'm not supposed to do all
He
those
doesn't even
things.
listen to podcasts.
I'm not supposed to be going to L.A. or AT&T
right.
Stadium or New York City. I had so many people when I started my career as an announcer say, "Oh, you quit dreaming about doing those PBRs. It's never going to happen." You know what? Kiss my ass.
It's true, though, but
I've got the greatest life ever.
we said this in a previous podcast that this sport,
Sorry for the
rodeo, and
language.
everything is you can go from zero to hero so fast. It's the same way with personnel. You can
Trust
be
me, the girlfriend reminds me all the time.
Well, she has a point there.
Yes, she does.
Well, she's kind of moved
stay
in
on
now,
that
but-
zero level.
Hey, but you know what? Now you have an upper hand because now you got stock in your backyard. You got dogs in your house.
It's real.
She owns everything.
She might.
It's
but
in my name, but
it's
she
a little,
owns everything.
It's a little harder to move that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And that's why I like those stories, especially the guys that come from nothing in their home country, or even the guys that now, not supposed to be a bull rider, not supposed to be successful. But
Let's talk about Jess for a minute.
okay.
2-time world champion. Just got to $4 million. That was this last week. That came out again. Is he the greatest bull rider ever?
Who's to say? I love these conversations, and I love that question. I love being the guy that asks that question because I don't have to answer it. But let's be real. What defines the greatest ever?
Well, I think that I heard a conversation a while back from Terry Bradshaw. Somebody said, in the 70s, I was the greatest quarterback that ever took the field.
Right.
Now it's 2020, and Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback to ever take the
Competition's
field.
tougher.
But you know what he told me? Or he said not told me, he said in the conversation was, there are guys that are going to be the highest paid. There are guys that are going to be the winningest. And then there are those guys that they can still say that were the best.
Could
And he said
Justin
at the end of-
McBride have won another 2 or 3 world titles after he retired? I think so.
Mm.
Could you plug him into 2020, 2021, 2022?
And he would dominate.
and still be the Justin McBride we saw? I think so, but I don't know. J.B. Mooney, if you want to look at money, J.B. Mooney's the greatest of all time. You can't argue with that.
Right.
He's got more money than anybody else.
Because he topped $7 million, right?
Yeah, and he's not done.
Right.
I mean, contrary to what a lot of people want to think, like, he's going to go as long as he wants to. That's his prerogative. Has anyone ridden more quote-unquote dragons than J.B. Mooney? Nope. There's nobody that's rode more ranked bulls than J.B. Mooney.
He started that trend
Yeah.
of you got to pick the tough ones.
Is it the smartest way to approach the sport? No. But as a fan, am I more invested in him? You better believe it.
Well, and I think that the same thing goes. I mean, you're like, again, Jess is the fastest to 4 million.
Mhm.
Jess has got 2 world championships. Jess is
Just getting
22
started.
years old.
Just
20, I don't know,
getting
what is he, 23 maybe? 22, 23?
Yeah.
Somewhere
Yeah,
right in
22.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So say he has another 10 years on his career, depending on where he's at.
Think about how JB influenced him on his, championship round when you're picking the bull.
Yeah, but
Jess
I don't
has-
know that that's – I think that that's more – that goes into the whole conversation. We can have it after this one or have it right now. Coaching in our sport is the one thing that we lack. And here's why I say that. If you go to professional wrestling, you've got a coach that's teaching you how to land on your shoulders and not on the small of your back. You have a coach in the NFL that's saying, hey, come here, let's look at this. This is where the defense is dropping. In basketball, they're drawing plays the entire time. You have assistant coaches reaching across saying, hey, LeBron, 3 times now he's cut you off on the corner. You can cross him over. Our sport, we don't have that except for the one, and that's Jess with Lambert.
And it's kind of growing.
It is.
I mean, I know
but
Lambert's opened up.
Lambert is
We have coaches, but they're hidden. And we as an industry are so scared to put labels on things like coach. We're such a man sport. There's so much toughness and bravado in this sport that, you know what? Hey, it's a multi-million-dollar sport. Guys have $1 million on the line. Throw that toughness crap out the window and just try to be the best,
Win.
okay?
Mhm. Yep.
And so here's the deal. We have coaches. You see it at the Velocity Tours a lot because Colby Yates is one of the best in the world at saying, this is what you did wrong. This is how to fix it.
Yeah, he talks to at least 10 guys a night.
And when I've worked those ride pass desks with him, it's amazing to me how many guys will sit and wait for a commercial break so that they can ask Colby, hey, what happened? And get that advice. J.W. Hart does it. Those guys will come to J.W. Hart.
But I think that, and not that I think
It's okay to say I'm wrong.
No.
Okay.
What I was going to say is there are, in other sports, we have position coaches and we have a head coach.
And assistant
And
position.
assistant
and
and position,
coordinators.
and so you have guys like that can break down a ride. I think our sport lacks the drive of a head coach in these guys' lives Because if you take a head coach, and if you really know what a head coach does, and I know Cris is dying to talk right now.
It's all good, man.
If you take a head coach and you put him in that position, that they can look at that guy and say, you're riding like shit.
Yeah.
Go talk to Colby Yates, figure it out, and then come back and let's have a conversation.
Or we need to get you with Cole because what he does
Exactly.
best is working with guys who, when the bull goes away from the hand, you hear, Jose was talking about, he went out and bought 3 bulls, right?
Yeah.
Went with the opposite way.
How many times have you ever
Nobody
heard that
does
in your
that.
career?
Right.
Nobody does.
Nobody does
Nobody
that,
does
right?
that.
But here's the problem. It's not just our sport, guys. It's society as a whole.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody can come up to you and go, you suck today. Like, you were not good.
Right. Those are
Because
fighting words.
we're
and
scared
I'm
somebody's going to
offended.
get their feelings hurt. I don't look. I don't give a damn about people's feelings, and I don't mean that in a cold-hearted way. It's like if you're having a bad day and I want you to be better, I'm going to tell you because I care. That's the difference. I don't care about your feelings. I care about you as a person. Right. So if I'm having an off day or if I'm doing something wrong, if I make a mistake and stub my toe and you don't tell me, are we really friends?
Right.
If you go, hey, great job out there today.
No, it wasn't.
And I know
Right.
that I suck.
Yeah,
are
you know
we
inside.
friends? I have to question that.
Well, that's what's frustrating.
You suck last night,
about
by the
what
way.
Thank you.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
say
Thank
that.
you.
Just
Thank
kidding.
you.
That's
Not
what's
that I don't agree. I'm just saying.
Headphones, I don't know where them.
that's what's frustrating about what we do, though, Matt, is because we believe so much in certain guys, but we can't ride them for them. So I'll have times on the microphone, I'll start saying something, and I'll say, you know what? I'm not talking to you in the crowd. I'm not talking to the 5,000 people that are here. I'm talking to the guy that's getting over top of his bull. That today is the day you're going to step up and make this happen.
Yeah.
And and like I like to grab guys outside the locker room and just say, especially on the Velocity Tour, you guys are supposed to dominate this deal. What are you doing? And I say it in a way that hopefully it hoorahs them a little bit because we just don't, especially on the Velocity Tour. Yeah, there's Colby, but at the end of the day, there's not a lot of if you're struggling, man, you're
Right.
struggling,
You
and
don't
you're
have the
struggling,
veterans,
and
you
you're
don't have the
struggling with
guys.
20 guys because there's 20 guys that are struggling, and you don't have that one leader in the locker room to really pick you up. So that's where we,
Bingo.
as broadcasters, have to be
Not
that
even
guy
that.
kind of.
Not even that. And that's why I think that's part of why I enjoy my job so much because I never thought I was going to be an announcer or a commentator or a broadcaster. The one thing I've always been good at, like my whole life is, and you'll argue with this, just save it. But the one thing I've always been good with in my life is being a friend. Yeah. And and you know this because you spent as much time with me as anybody in this business. I do my homework being friends with people.
Mm-hmm.
I learn more about guys sitting at breakfast or in the gym or driving up and down the road because at the end of the day, anyone can look at statistics.
That's exactly
I don't care
right.
about that. I care that, you know what, Mason Taylor went to Cooper Davis. They had a little conversation. Cooper said, you need to lose a little bit of weight because that's something we can almost all of us.
Hey.
But you know what? As
there's
human
but
beings,
that's
that's real life stuff.
Exactly, but that's my point in not having that coach because if we have a lot of guys that come from coached sports.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of guys that have never been coached.
Yeah.
Bradley Britton that's just got on tour, he's 21 in the world. We had this conversation with him. At 15 years old, he quit playing regular sports and just started riding bulls.
Right.
Nobody knew who Bradley Britton was until about 5 weeks
Months ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he'd been on the pro rodeo side. He'd been in West Texas, and all of a sudden, people are like, "Oh, he's not supposed to be up here." Yet, if you go back and you look at what he did outside of this, the PBR, Bradley Britton's pretty handy.
But let me throw something.
But he
else
wasn't
at
somebody
you.
that's ever been coached.
Forget about coaches for a minute. Think about this. There's 2 words that I think scare our industry, but I think the younger generation are starting to really accept it. Sports psychologist.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Why would you not?
I've always said if I could go back in time, pick a different major, I would be a sports psychologist and totally go with bull riders and
You would
rodeo.
suck at it. But
thank you for
Absolutely
saying
would
that.
not. That'd be
you would suck
phenomenal
at
at
it.
it.
But when I started college,
I would
like
be
I
a
was
millionaire.
I was wanting to go
You
into
would?
psychology.
Yes.
You would sit there with your pen and do this.
Look at his watch. When's my next appointment?
You really think you'd be a good sports psychologist?
Here's one way
Listen,
to find out. Let's
listen.
ask his wife.
Hey, no. Listen.
Because who's going to be on?
Hey,
I'm just
listen.
saying.
Who takes care of a lot
You
of stuff?
should be careful with what you
I'm
say
taking
right now.
care of scheduling right now and pick up and drop
It's
off.
your schedule. You're supposed
because
to.
somebody was told to go to the wrong hotel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's not at the Courtyard. He's at the Holiday Inn Express. If we want to
And-
make
but-
real television here,
Since we're throwing
you
arrows,
sent him to the wrong hotel.
who was that?
Oh, it was my dad. I have no
No.
doubt.
Well, your dad went where one of us told him.
Where,
one of us,
where
but
he
not
told
me.
his father-in-law to go.
One of us. But
I
not
did
me.
not say a word.
Back
No.
to what we're at. Sports psychology.
Yeah.
We've said
Sports
this.
psychology.
I will say this. In my position as 100X and with Cris and knowing Chris's background and listening to the conversations that happen outside of these walls, or maybe it's more so in these walls about football and football related, I know Cris is going to look at me and say, I can't believe you just said that. We're not going to edit this either. I have a firm belief that if somebody would pull Silvano to the side and give him the next 6 weeks with Cris, you would see Silvano in the top 5 in the world.
It's a coaching. It's a psychology thing.
Because I firmly have watched him coach everything he has pointed out and what's going on. He tells me what's going to happen before the next week. It's kind of like if you sit and watch a football game with him after, and I'm not just tooting his horn, I'm just saying there's a reason he was a professional. I mean, he was a professional coach at college.
Right.
And when you coach young men, because that's what our sport is. That's what most people don't understand about. You take a college football coach, and there's lots of documentaries out on Netflix and all these different things. You're not just coaching the game. You're coaching young men.
Right.
And young men are full of hormones and testosterone and drugs and alcohol and girls and all these things. And you're coaching all of those things, 120 guys in a group, and you got to be successful. It's a different. And our sport is the same thing.
Think
you
about
guys are all
this.
coaching these guys too.
Think about this. When you were in high school or you were in college or anything like that, and you went through a breakup, when that girl broke up with you and broke your heart, dumped you, whatever the case was, what did you do? You didn't go hide in your room for the next 6 months and try to fix yourself by yourself.
You went to the next rodeo dance.
You went to your buddies. Like you talk to your real friends. You talk to, whether it's it's some people talk to their parents, like some people talk to their buddies, some people talk to their roommates, but you go and you talk to somebody. When you are struggling in a sport, why would you not treat it the same way? Why would you not go just talk to somebody?
Seek that.
Try to get out of your own way.
You hit it a little bit. There's a machismo part of it.
There is.
Yeah.
There is.
And
But again, I also think these guys don't know. They've not been taught.
So, do you remember a pitcher, John Smoltz, for the Braves?
Braves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who was phenomenal. Lights out, right? Okay. I think his last 4 contracts mandated it was like $300,000 to pay for their sports psychologist that traveled with him. Did you know about that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
literally, he sit behind. He watched him. He was the first person he communicated, the last person he communicated with.
Did you know that in 2009, Cody Lostro actually had a sports psychologist while he was in the absolute prime of his career on his way to a world title? It had nothing to do with any struggles or this guy was at the top
It was
of
just
his
part
game.
of it. Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
he thought, you know what? I need to stay at the top of my game. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to get a sports psychologist. He's opened up about that in the last couple of years, and I think it benefited. I want to talk baseball because you mentioned John Smoltz. He was part of one of the greatest pitching crews ever with Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, Greg Maddux, the Braves. I hate the Braves, but man,
come
they were
on
good.
now.
But Tom Glavine came out with something this week about the whole cheating scandal, stealing
I saw
signals.
that, yeah.
Everybody in baseball that's ever played the game has stole signs, stole signals, whatever. I don't know that anybody's putting mechanical devices in their jerseys, but I thought Tom Glavine had a great point. He said, I don't mind yelling at home plate and saying I'm about to throw an 85-mile-an-hour sinker.
Because you still got to
Try to
hit
hit
it.
it.
You still got to hit it. Yeah,
Like,
that's.
how great is that?
Yeah.
But that's the same thing with Mahomes. Mahomes said, "Hey, you know what?" Or Andy Reid said, "Look, here's my playbook."
Yeah. Mahomes is a
At-
freak,
At
though.
the end of the day, I've still got 15 on the field.
Like, how many times did he look like some, school playground just
But
running
just
around?
do the same thing with our
Oh,
sport.
it's
Do the same thing
amazing.
in bull riding.
Yeah.
Jose last night, we were in Kansas City for the WCRA. That first bull out, that was. If you go back and watch that ride,
Yeah.
3 times
When
he
it
was,
changed
3
direction
times
the
he was
first-
bucked off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, what?
and he never moved, and he never moved, and he never moved, and he looked back, and then Jess did the same thing on. And so you got two guys that are battling our sport out right now. And it really is two. Jay Al's been at the top, and you've got there's the rest of the guys. But right now, it is two guys, and it's two guys that have become
So someone who's not a sports psychologist, I'm not sure Cody Lambert would fit into that category by most people's, right? Most people's
absolutely not.
Right. But
kind of.
Look at it. Look how he's impacted Jess Lockwood. It's been kind of, you got to change your psyche, right? You hear Jess talk about it all the time. Well, I talked with Cody, and he was telling me, I just got to know that I'm going to ride every bull. I've got to get that.
Cody gets a bad rap because for years he was rough, hard-headed. Yeah, I mean, he loved to jab people. He loved to get a rise out of people. I mean, like, I think back, my grandpa loved to just get a rise out of people. Great human being. And when you got through that rough exterior, you understand what a good person he is. I think Cody Lambert has a lot of the same qualities because you think, he's not a good sports psychologist. You get him away from everybody and you genuinely talk to him as a human, he's night and day different than what I think a lot of people think, front and center. And everybody has a different relationship with everybody. Yeah. But I think if you can break through, I think he could be good for a lot of guys.
Well, and what you guys were talking about earlier about the cheating deal in baseball, you can break down any baseball game in the country. You can find every single one of them. Same with football and watch plays and stuff like that. But I don't think this has become a big deal with bull riders. And I'm going to go back and watch. I'm going to break down my film. Why break down your own film? Hell, break down what Jess Lockwood's doing, or break down what Jose Vitor LeMay's doing, because they're the best. And if I want to be the best, I'm going to emulate the best. And you need to figure out what makes those guys that much better. Is it their riding, or is it what they're doing in the gym?
But it's not everything that happens in the arena. And again, I go back. You brought up Jess earlier. Jess has that wrestler mentality of when he was wrestling in high school, and a lot of other guys will have this same kind of thought process. When you're wrestling, I think you have to be the most focused, determined, strict in your mindset with everything, because you have to manage everything that goes into your body to make a certain weight.
Yep. I don't think it's just wrestling, though. I think if you like the combine's going on right now, you got guys that are running 4.240s.
Right.
4.240s, that's Olympic level.
My point being, you have to have that mindset to be successful at those sports. This sport is a million times more difficult than playing football. No offense, but it's different.
I don't believe you, but
I was going to say,
I agree.
No.
We're
but
on the
you
same
see
page.
what I'm saying, though. From the layman's perspective, like, you look at this sport, it is so much more difficult to be successful in this world. Why would you not go to extreme measures outside of the arena to benefit yourself in competition?
That difficulty comes with the time in which you get to perform your thing.
Right.
In football, we have a 4-quarter game, and offensive lineman's going to get that. He's going to block 65 times, right?
Yep.
So he's graded on that.
Right.
If he showed up, walked out there, they snapped the ball, he punched and missed his guy and didn't make his block, and then walk off the field, and that's what his salary was based on.
Right.
You talk about a roller coaster.
Yeah.
That is exactly. I've always made that distinction, saying it is clearly the difficulty is participating within the parameters and being successful. Yeah. The athleticism and all those kinds of things. There's some trade-offs. There's guys who are football players that no way in hell could get on a bull.
Right.
And there's guys that are bull riders that no way in hell could go run a route and catch a ball.
Well, but even like offensive, defensive linemen, people look at them and they think, they're not in good shape. But when you start thinking about the time that they put in a game, much less a practice, I'm like, holy crap, I couldn't do that.
Right.
I could not go through one series on an offensive or defensive line doing what they do, as big as they are, trying to manipulate someone else's body and energy. And
but they have so many opportunities to be graded on as a whole, where a bull rider, you know what? It's those 2 weeks ago, you win, you're in. You win, you get to move on to the next one.
Well,
so you can ride one bull on a whole weekend and you're done.
I think until you really break down, that's what people love about our sport, is they think it's man versus beast. But really, I mean, it is. It's not. They're against the bulls at all the time, and they have to learn how to conquer that other side of the competition. But if guys aren't on their mental game in order to do it, I'm going to use Stetson right now as an example. Stetson's on the cut line. Stetson's not been riding very well. and Stetson has got to perform. He's done it. He did it the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. But when you got to put yourself in that position, you either show up and ride or you show up and you don't. And that's different than showing up, putting your pads on, and going on the field and saying, I didn't have a very good day yesterday. I'm okay. I got a contract to fulfill. I'm all right. But our sport, again, to say that we are the toughest, I sometimes struggle with it because you get to watch other sports. Like I watched the other day, there's a guy from South Africa that ran like 74 miles straight. Mm-hmm. The mental capacity to run 74 miles to me is beyond.
I can't fathom that.
I can't either.
It's not even
that's
in the world of.
Yeah.
But to run 74 miles in one setting and never stop, I don't understand that.
I can't put myself in a mindset of running from here to the bathroom if I needed to.
But that's my point.
Much less
so the mental capacity of that guy to be able to do that is the same. And so I think there's so many comparables in our sport. There are so many things. And then again, it comes down to, at the end of the day, we're trying to put butts in the seats and sell tickets. It's an entertainment.
Hey, Matt, on your point, I've often found myself running to the refrigerator, but I usually walk back.
100%. Or stay there for a little while.
Yeah,
I just stay close.
He doesn't run to the refrigerator. He has somebody bring it to him.
Who, him or me?
Him.
I was going to say, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
I don't have that luxury, that lifestyle.
Yeah. So let's talk West Fit. Let's talk Matt West.
That's the one thing in life I don't like talking about.
Why is that?
I don't like talking about me. I've never been good at it.
Your social media says different.
I know, but that's a have to though. You know what I mean?
That's it.
Okay, time out though, because I now I love this because I can spin it and talk about somebody else. Social media is such a part of the world. And Cooper and I had this conversation the other day at AT&T Stadium because people make fun of other people on social media. So I'm catching a lot of shit because me and my girlfriend are posting at the gym. Let me tell you something. If you're talking crap, it's not for you. But if you're one of the people that sends me a DM and says, you know what, I listened to your podcast number 34. I'd been having struggles. I had this mental block. And when I heard you say that you struggled with your weight and that you were overweight when you were younger and that you couldn't go to the gym and you couldn't get in there, that's the only person I give a damn about.
Absolutely.
I don't care. Like our buddy Richard loves to make fun of me all the time. He's one of my, close friends, but he's constantly giving me crap about social media. I don't care. Yeah. On the flip side of that, Cooper and I, we have this conversation the other day because people are giving him and Caitlin crap because they're on social media constantly. Do you have any idea how much money is made by social media?
Yeah.
Think about
just
that.
The influencer side of it is become
right.
I have a girl that I went to high school with that has she says she makes
it's like 440
yeah, she makes like $96,000
I don't
a month.
make shit on Instagram. I'm just telling you that right now.
Yeah, she makes like $96,000 a month on Instagram.
But you know what I do? And the reason I continue to put content out there is because of those stories like I just said. Somebody that'll reach out and say, hey, you gave me – guys, I'm not – I can't imagine being a celebrity and getting those messages all the time because I get one and I just want to like sit down and boohoo for a week. Yeah. Like to think that somebody actually gets something from any of the stupid crap I do.
Speaking of boohoo,
my life,
you need to tell what's his King of Sting or whatever.
Theo or Brennan?
Brennan. Just tell him.
Here's the funny thing. So when I go back, I love it because like I love comedy. And I warned my girlfriend, terrible, I was like, as soon as this comes on, like I haven't even watched it, but just be prepared because Brendan's going to talk shit.
Yeah.
But here's the good news. Towards the end of his career, I bought a ticket to a UFC fight. In buying that ticket, I won as many UFC fights as he did in like the last 3 years of his career. So whatever. Who cares?
Hey, so let me, I know you don't like talking about yourself and you're not a braggart at all. And you make a living building other people. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, that's how when we listen to you announce and Scott as well, it's like you're always on the side of the rider.
He announces
once in a while.
Okay.
Yeah. You always take the rider side.
Why is your seat all the way down? By the way,
I jacked mine up.
Oh, is that what it is?
I jacked mine up before the show.
I just looked over.
I did it on purpose.
Like,
yeah.
Hold on there. Mine's
there we look
now.
Excuse me.
Right. That's never going to happen.
Shoulders back.
Yeah, never going
to.
So I just looked over and couldn't see you.
Try not to take away from the guest here.
Well,
Didn't
we
want
put
to be
him
the
up on a
center of
pedestal.
That's an
attention.
old
No.
TV trick there.
So here's my point. I was going to say you're not a bragger and all that kind of stuff, but I'll brag for you. I had the opportunity to swing through your hometown, see your gym, kind of get a feel of it, and I wouldn't say I'm the gymnasium connoisseur or the weight room connoisseur,
I can tell.
but
You guys are brutal.
Hey,
by
but
the way, I've been watching
just
the first few
ignore it.
episodes. You guys are savage.
You know what? Here's the thing. Where we're at in our size, I mean, honestly, I've been a
two
big
big
guy
guys.
my entire life. I don't mind. Like people be like, oh, they make comments or, you
But
know,
who cares?
I don't
Exactly.
care.
Yep.
Like I really don't.
That's
Like,
what I
if-
love when you started talking about Theo. And to go back to what I was saying, like I told, the thing, hey, Brendan's probably going to talk crap. But if you think back, like when I was on Theo's
Thing.
podcast, listen to my podcast, you'd know.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
That's what comedy is. Like
It is,
comedy,
it is.
when Theo came on and like people would pop up on the screen, I'd say, "Oh, how high is that guy?" If he
Yep.
gets offended by laugh at yourself,
Laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when he said, hey, this guy's shirt's tight. Like, yep. You know why? Because I worked hard.
Yep.
I used to weigh 300 pounds.
Hey, and it's a V. That's
You
what
were
should
never
say.
300 pounds.
Yeah, I was 298 when I moved
That's
home
not
from college.
300.
298.
I don't care. Don't say. Hey, I was 300 pounds. No, that's 298. Because I'm gonna tell you what. If I stand on the scale and it says 298, I'm gonna say, shit, I'm 298. I ain't gonna say I'm 300.
That's where I'm at
I'm
right
just
now.
saying.
I'm trying to break under 220, and I
Well,
was
hey,
like
he's-
221.
He's reminiscing about those elementary years.
Yeah, no
so
kidding.
Just, you know,
Hey, there's some truth to that.
I got you.
Let's be honest.
All right.
There's some truth to that.
I want to round back out because I think this is important. Let's round back to the point. What I was trying to make
How nice
is
his
that
gym is in Nawada, Oklahoma.
how nice your gym is.
At Westfit OK on Instagram.
West Fit. It is. Absolutely. Drop it. But my point being, do you remember our conversation afterwards? Like I said, I'm not building gyms. I'm not running gyms. But I was in them for 20 years as a football coach. Been with it. And I left there. And do you remember the conversation?
I do. 'Cause
I was like, dude.
you called me after Whataburger.
Left West Fit went
Happens
straight
more
to
often
Whataburger.
than not. People leave my gym and go straight to Sonic. It's like a mile.
He knows it's true. Though.
If there would have been a Whataburger close, if there would have been, I'm with you. I
That's
would have
something
been.
like we don't get in
I
Oklahoma.
know.
We don't really truly get to experience Whataburger or In-N-Out.
There's a Whataburger in Tulsa.
Yeah, but you got Tulsa. Like there's
It's not very
few
nice.
of
I
them.
mean, but
you know
we
what
really
we
don't
have.
here.
The
Chris
rest
is
of
getting
the world.
frustrated. He's like,
I
I'm
know.
trying to give this guy a
No, I know.
compliment. You
No,
guys
not
keep
at
talking about how fat I
I
am.
agree.
But you know what we get to experience the rest of the world doesn't? QT.
Yeah,
and
quick
QT
trip.
donuts.
Yeah.
They're like heaven.
Well, one of these days you guys will get to experience football. I mean,
Are you talking about Oklahoma?
He's
yeah.
not.
You
he's-
do realize
hey,
I live in this.
We
like,
need a
the
sports
Sooner
psychologist
Nation.
to work with him for him to understand.
He
He
needs
doesn't
to
get it.
lay on
Hey,
somebody's
oh my
couch, talk about
goodness.
it. Hey,
Hey,
but
talk
meow,
about cheaters.
Meow.
but I appreciate what you're saying. I did work hard to provide a place that people could come in and
be comfortable.
be comfortable. Not one of them, and I'm not going to talk crap, but it's Planet Fitness.
Yeah.
I
You
couldn't
don't
think of
slide
the
a
name
key.
of
Okay,
it.
now
You don't
Okay.
slide a key and never get to meet the owner.
Well, and not even yeah.
Yeah, but I'm
sometimes
going to
you
say
do.
this. I know a couple people that use this gym, and they use it pretty regularly. And the one thing they said was, we can go in there and be as goofy
Yep.
as we want to be. We can go in there and be as focused as we want to be. And nobody's ever going to say, like, if you go into a Planet Fitness and start working out and start grunting, the YMCA uptown, if you start grunting at the Y lifting weights, they're going to say, hey, we're not that type of gym.
Yeah.
And I see Snapchats and I see things come out of the gym. It's
We've
like,
got everybody.
you do. And that's what I was going to say is you'll see them doing something, and in the background you'll see somebody else. And so I think that the fact that you've made it comfortable for people to come in and try and work on fixing themselves.
But that comes from me
Right.
personally
I
because
agree
of
with
my
that. That was going to be my
struggles.
point. Oh,
But my struggles, and that's what I've talked about this a little bit on my podcast. When I moved home, when I was almost 300 pounds, and I moved home, I joined the gym that afternoon, and I was going to work out in the middle of the afternoon because I thought middle of the day everybody's at work. But there were people in there, so I left. I came back a few hours later, pulled up to the parking lot. There were still people in there, so I was like, come back about 9 o'clock that evening. Still a few people in there working out. I didn't want to go. I got my first workout at midnight that night on the day that I joined my gym because that's the first time I got there. Nobody was around. And I still struggle with this sometimes. This, it's a fear of going into a place like that. And I have to remind myself I'm not going in there to compare to everybody else. I'm going in there for me.
Right.
For my health, for my longevity in my life, and to feel good about myself. Blinders on. And that's basically the only time in my life that I'm like, you know what, get tunnel vision and don't see around you. Because I want everybody to be open-minded about everything else.
He's been working out.
And what's great about I haven't been working out. I mean, we've been going a lot. Me and Becky decided before the PBR finals we were going to start.
One of these
working
days
out.
you're going to get so jacked that you can't button that top button.
I hope it comes soon. And one thing about Matt West's gym is that there's cameras everywhere.
There is cameras
and
everywhere.
if you fall on a treadmill, it will make social media. But that's also what's fun about his place.
It is. We're a big family there. We really are.
All right. Are we wrapping up? Is it that time? Is somebody?
I think so.
Move on. I think so.
It's a busy day here at the old 100X National Headquarters in beautiful downtown Tracy, Missouri.
I like the place, by the way.
Yeah.
I love
appreciate
the
that.
podcast. I love the setup. It looks good. I love the YouTube channel. So
here's the thing: is
I mean that
we speak helmets every day. We don't really talk about it much on the podcast,
right?
But that's what we do every day. We're constantly watching film. We're watching guys, talking to guys, having conversations, not just with guys that are on tour, but 90% of our conversations happen with younger kids, parents, grandmas.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be amazed how many grandmas call in and say, "Hey, I have a question about a helmet for my grandson."
Right.
And so we answer those questions. And so where we're at here, and we appreciate that because we don't spend as much time in here as we probably should because we try and be on the road and we try and take care of those guys.
So I have a request.
What's
Since
that?
you don't talk a lot of helmets, especially on the podcast, come talk helmets and sports safety and head injury. Talk all that stuff and wrestling with me on my podcast.
We can talk wrestling all day long.
Okay. It's
I
the
love
Matt West
talking
Now
wrestling.
podcast, in case you were wondering.
Yep.
It's a two-part series. Matt West Now. Matt West Now. Matt West.
There you go.
Now.
There you go. I hate that.
He's had like 3 jokes and he talked about going to the gym today. Yeah.
Bruce Buffer does the
you
open.
have
That
the,
is
you have the
amazing.
coolest.
We were
opening
talking about
to a podcast.
an opener for us and stuff. I'm like, man, Matt's kind of over there. He's got it right there.
Yeah.
Like, how cool is that,
a whole
though? Like,
different
for
level
me,
mindset.
as a
Exactly.
kid from a
It
town of
fits.
300 people, Bruce Buffer, the voice of the UFC, does the open of my podcast. Are you kidding me?
I know.
That's
See, if it'd
crazy.
been like Mean Gene or Jerry Lawler or somewhere
know.
like that, I mean,
know.
come on.
I don't have those
Randy
in
Savage.
yet.
Or Ric Flair. I saw him open up. Did you guys see that the other day?
Yeah.
Ric Flair opened up for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
He about ran out of air.
Here's a
like
little
he's trying
backstory.
to scream and give a woo, and he was like, his face is red. LeBron looks over his shoulder like, yeah, we're way over you.
Little
So,
backstory: we were working on getting him to a couple of different PBR events in the past couple of years, and it hasn't worked out. But it's
Ric Flair.
yeah. So
That's awesome.
we can talk about that on my podcast.
We
It's
will.
called Matt West Now. If
Well, thank
you
you.
were wondering.
Big thank you
Look forward to it.
to
Absolutely.
Matt West from the Matt West Now podcast and the mayor of Delaware, Oklahoma.
Unofficially.
All right.
Every
Till
day.
next time.
Thanks, guys.
We're out.